We urgently need more Greens elected because we're not just facing a climate crisis, we're facing an inequality crisis. The cost of living crisis is an inequality crisis. Currently, the gap between rich and poor has never been wider. Many billionaires doubled their wealth during the pandemic. Clive Palmer is trying to buy himself a seat in Parliament, and Gina Rinehart owns 1.2% of the land in this country. Meanwhile, 1 in 3 big corporations pays no tax. When a nurse pays more tax than a multinational, something is seriously wrong. Liberal and Labor have designed a system which gives big corporations and billionaires too much power, increases the cost of everything, and drives down wages. For working people and families, living standards are going backwards. Our essential services have been sold off, and now electricity, housing, health and education are all too expensive. Over 3 million people are living in poverty. And in a heartbreaking move to the right, Labor has just agreed with the Liberals to keep people in poverty, refusing to lift income support payments above the poverty line. 400,000 women over the age of 45 are at risk of becoming homeless. And no matter how much money young people save, they will never be able to afford a home of their own. We have record low wage growth, endemic wage theft, and out-of-control insecure work. The arts and entertainment industries and our universities were simply abandoned during the pandemic, left to fend for themselves while the government's mates made out like bandits. Australia needs a pay rise. We need to increase the minimum wage to 60% of median weekly earnings. We need to outlaw insecure work. But here's my point. Government is key to fixing the inequality crisis, but only if we make the billionaires and big corporations pay their fair share of tax and then use that money to make people's lives better. But with Labor now backing the Liberals on tax cuts for billionaires, handouts for wealthy property investors with more than 3 homes, keeping people in poverty and giving subsidies to coal and gas, Australia's social democracy is at stake. When Labor says that if they win the next election, an aged care worker will pay the same tax rate as a CEO, that's a trickle-down nightmare, and it's the end of Australia's progressive taxation system. And this is more than Labor running a so-called small target strategy designed to win one election. This is about the future of social democracy. With Labor siding with the Liberals to rip $184 billion out of the public purse to fund tax cuts for the wealthy, $69 billion in handouts to push up housing costs, and $98 billion for coal and gas subsidies, social democracy is headed for the chopping block unless more Greens are elected. Without Greens in balance of power to push the big corporations and billionaires to pay their fair share of tax, the next budget will be an austerity budget, and Australia will take one step closer to US-style inequality. Governments can do a lot. As we've just seen last week, with a stroke of a pen, ministers could remove all refugees from criminal detention. With the stroke of a pen, we could end the subsidies for coal and gas corporations and put a moratorium on all new projects. Governments can raise taxes on billionaires, they can improve services, they can cut off the handouts to coal and gas and ensure that everyone has an affordable home. Governments have the power to improve our country, but they've just sold us out, given up, thrown in the towel, and they're hitting the snooze button on our future. Well, time's up. Young people have woken up to the fix. People deserve better. As I've said, our priority is to take climate action by stopping new coal and gas mines. But we'll tackle the cost of living too with 3 key demands. Get dental and mental health into Medicare, fix the housing affordability crisis by building 1 million new homes that people can buy for $300,000 or rent for 25% of their income, and wipe student debt, which will relieve a huge burden for people at a time that many are trying to start a family or buy their first house.